Welcome to Generation Inspired, exploring the people and ideas shaping tomorrow. Welcome back to the Generation Inspired podcast. Today, Laura sits down with Iesha Delune to explore parenting, school refusal, and why more families are rethinking education. With over 20 years of experience helping people live more aligned and intentional lives, Iesha shares a perspective so many parents will resonate with. School shouldn't be something children have to survive. Let's jump in.
So I'm here today with the amazing, lovely Iesha, and I am here to pick her brains about everything about her journey where it comes to parenting, schooling, anything else that she has to share because she has a wealth of knowledge and experience. So welcome, Iesha. Thank you for saying yes.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
Let's start by you telling us who you are and what you stand for and what you want to talk about, all these big things.
Oh, good. And note to self, why don't I have something snazzy prepared for this exact situation? So first and foremost for this conversation, I'm a mum. I've got two children who are currently 17 and 22. So my daughter's nearly at the end of her kind of schooling experience, which learning never ends. I'm a lifelong learner, I guess, is the other thing to share. Didn't have a fabulous experience really with my own mainstream schooling, but ironically, I love learning and I'm always stretching and moving and choosing for myself where to next place my kind of curiosity and my mind. And I wanted that for my children, as well. Professionally or personal and professional mush together, but I consider myself a holistic coach. So I do a lot of life and business coaching, personal development. But the essence of it is that I work with people or support people to come home to the truth of them. So my work is about alignment. It's based on the foundation that all of us are unique. Every single human being that I've ever met ever has a uniqueness. And when we can learn to operate from our own alignment, so not who we think we should be or no, not what so and so over there is doing, but from our own inner compass and live in that alignment, our nervous systems are regulated, our
True.
everything is easier. And we've got actually then got access to our own intelligence and our own flow. So that's, yeah,
I love that.
that's
And I
my
have to
summary.
say, that was a great summary.
Thank
I
you.
think unprepared was amazing, so don't worry.
Yeah.
My first question is I want to dive into the mum aspect for a
Yeah.
second and really understand like your interaction with your kids and their schooling. I'd love to know more.
Okay, so I was like teaching my children. And to me, you have these, yes, parenting is difficult, and yes, it's a full contact sport that you can't do from the sidelines, but the learning with them when they were young. So by the time my son started school, he could read really well. Like the books that we were reading at night for bed, he was reading. So he came excited about school, but could already do a lot of the kind of things that
Basics.
they were doing in prep. So I went along I mean, I worked for myself, but I did I want to go in and help once a month or whatever I
Yes.
whatever I could do. It felt like schools were set up for a family where one person didn't have to do anything, which was that's a terrible thing to say. I felt like it was set up where one person got to be a dedicated parent. And I found as a
Interesting.
working mum, trying to find a way to participate in the school quite challenging and I was in a different situation to a lot of the other women with my oldest child, but I digress. So I would go along and help in prep, and I was watching. I actually walked away. I'll never forget the first time I went in to help, and I was so despondent.
Mm.
I was like, my bright little man is there, and I could just watch him. He got none of the attention because it didn't cause any problems and he wasn't massively struggling. And I was watching this group, I mean, she was a lovely teacher, but I was watching the level of disengagement. And I mean, how could one person engage all kids and, sit still and do this and do that? So much of it was kind of behavior management. And I was watching these beautiful, spongy, excited minds not really get a whole
What they
lot
needed.
done. And that was my experience for the first couple of years where I was still trying to do it all and go in and help. And I remember just thinking, oh goodness. So it kind of reiterated to me how important it was to do the things we were doing at home.
How interesting. It's so funny that you say that, because my youngest has just gone into prep and he was so excited to go to school. Like, it was the thing that he kept talking about for a whole year leading up to prep. And he would want the uniform, want to wear it everywhere. Like, it was just something he was really excited about.
Yeah.
And what I've unfortunately seen is how much he absolutely hates school.
Yeah.
Which has blown my mind and is very uncomfortable to sit with. So I really relate to everything that you just said there. And, I have gone in and I've been the helper, and everything that you've said, all I can say is exactly that. So what happened?
I tried a few different things. Like, at one point I joined school council thinking maybe, I don't know what difference I thought I could make. And I was a single mum, so I was paying for babysitting to go and sit
Go do it.
committee meetings. And I've now decided if there was a hell realm for me, it would just be filled with committees that talked. And it wasn't for me. I tried helping more, and I would have these connections with kids, like teaching them to read and watch the lights go on and go, wow, they need so much more than they're getting. I would just kind of watched it, and I thought of homeschooling, but I just had no idea. Like, by then I had child number 2. There's a 5-year gap between. And I didn't know what to do. So this is not my proudest moment, but I just went, okay, well, that's just
the way it is.
How it is. That's just the way it is. I'm working and I'm doing this, and I'll do what I can at home and try and encourage that kind of lifelong learning at home. I was kind of like, I don't know what to do. I felt like I didn't have the time to even look at homeschooling or how would that be or anything like that. So that just kind of rocked along. And then by the time my daughter started prep, she had a lot of health, like really debilitating health conditions. And they weren't immediately obvious to the outside world. So it wasn't like a physical disability or something. And I'm not saying parents that have that situation are having a good time, but it wasn't. So basically the situation with the teacher was, I think she just thought I was some sort of weird helicopter
overreactive
parent. Yeah, she ended up. So that was really difficult to communicate with her. But my daughter would scream, cry, hold onto the car seat, just did not want to go to school for the whole first year. So that was horrific. She would be in tears. I would walk away after drop off in tears, So that was really, really, it's like I can still feel in my body how awful that was. And I mean, who's got time? The teacher's got a whole other class of kids to try and work with it. I think, I guess it's easy to just think that that the problem's the mum, that maybe I've created this clingy kid and I should be more this. I don't know. They obviously have never read about secure attachments or anything to do with child psychology or whatever. So that was very, very difficult. And I had exactly the same situation with her, that my 2 children are wired really differently. One's an internal processor, one's an external processor. They're wired very differently. But my same situation, when I would go in and help, I would just saw the same things, and I was pretty disillusioned. Like I was not going, yes, I'm so positive about this experience. But again, I didn't really know what to do about it.
Well, I think that's a really common thing, because if I look back even now, my kids are still in mainstream schooling. Like, I want to make a change, but it's taken a long time. My eldest is 12 now. And I hear you when you say that there's some guilt and all of that, but you don't know what you don't know a lot of the time as well.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
so everyone listening, if you're feeling the same way, please don't feel guilty because time for change is now. We don't have to worry about what has happened. Let's take the step forward.
Yeah.
So with your daughter, what happened? How did you navigate that?
Oh, like her not wanting to go to school, do you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, like we could talk for the whole time about that. It was just a real process of, I mean, it was a combination of things, and I won't embarrass her if she ever listens to it, talking about the kinds of issues that she was having
Mm-hmm.
medically, but a lot of it was just nervousness, and she just didn't have a safe space there in terms of a safe person that she could
That's hard.
talk with, and so that there was all of that. So it was just. I would go and see, I made contact with a child psychologist
Okay.
who I would go and see so that I could talk through the strategies I was doing, and kind of he became my support in terms of what really mattered. And he said something to me that was so life-changing. He talked to me about secure attachments,
Mm-hmm.
and he said, if your child has got one person in their life that they feel safe to be all of themselves without putting on a mask, without putting on a performance, without doing all of that. They can just be themselves, whether they're resourced or unresourced. Like every indicator for life success is you're giving them something so special. So it gave me this ability to stop worrying or
Brilliant.
dialing up the level of, if I don't get this sorted, then this is going to be the long-term consequences. Like it helped with a lot of that mental noise, and it just gave me strategies for home, and it gave me strategies. Obviously, when you're 5, the conversation is different
For sure.
to the chats I would be having with, the kids that you still have as a parent. I've got an adult son who owns his own house, and I still have chats with him about things. But those conversations about navigating in life those situations that are like, let's say, their relationship with me, where they can tell me whatever's on their mind and experience non-judgment, help if they want it, listening ear if they don't want it, how to navigate other relationships.
Mm.
So that conversation about how you manage school, which is different to how you just be.
How
Yeah.
interesting. But it's true. I don't think we haven't, like, I still don't feel equipped to have that conversation very well with my kids around how to manage school. And I think this is what really gets me. We shouldn't have to manage school.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it makes me mad that our kids can't be who they are. And I'm not pointing a finger. I don't want to blame teachers. I don't want to necessarily blame school because soon as you get government is involved, as soon as you
Yeah.
have, boundaries that are legalized and that sort of thing, there's only so much you can do. I'm not going to go into that because that could be a whole other podcast conversation. But what I
Yeah.
really want to know is, what did you see that you knew you had to change? Was there one catalyst that you went, I really have to change something? Or was it small things over a period of time for you?
It was small things over a period of time. Um, And there was a particular turning point where I had begun the research in terms of unschooling, deschooling, homeschooling. Like I'd sort of begun
Mm-hmm.
the research, and I don't want to necessarily name that particular thing, but there was one thing that happened that was just kind of my final straw, but it was
Mm-hmm.
a process. And also the deep thinking about the system. So I won't turn this into another podcast episode, but I do actually believe if we were willing as a society or as a government or as a education minister to actually re-look at the standards,
Mm,
it would be possible to create a much more efficient education system that met standards that actually make sense.
for sure.
Um, and smaller class sizes, opportunity to learn things. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Following people's uniqueness, because it turns out you can learn maths outside while you're moving. You can learn, like, there's lots of different ways to learn
Absolutely.
the same thing. And one of the things, I know I'm jumping ahead, but one of the things that really blew me away in the homeschooling, unschooling, deschooling, because we kind of did a bit of everything, community was how many teachers were in it.
Right?
You know, how many passionate, most teachers love teaching, but they're spending so much time in administration
Mhm.
and what's called individual learning plans that aren't individual at all because they're standing up teaching the same thing for everyone. And I'm not dismissing the effort of teachers. I think they're amazing. And if they got to just teach,
Oh, what a
so
world would be in.
yeah, I actually do think it could probably actually end up being more cost efficient and more efficient in every way if it was re-looked at, not trying to edit what exists, but actually begun again. Yeah.
You said a couple of words which I'm going to hook on to right now, and that was individual learning plan.
Yeah.
So it feels like such a buzzword to me because both of my kids are on individual learning plans for different reasons. And I've got, the air quotes going on for those
Yeah.
that can't actually see
Yeah.
what I'm saying. But talk to me about your experience of these, and I like give us everything you've got around these individual learning plans.
Well, I remember through my daughter's primary school asking to actually see the individual learning plan. I was never was like, I don't think I was ever allowed to see it. So I don't
Interesting.
know. I know that the teachers were spending a lot of time in meetings and planning and all that sort of stuff. So I'm sure that that admin time was real, but and taking up time and effort and focus and all those sorts of things. But in terms of an actual individual learning plan that was kind of viewable and participate in-able, that wasn't my that wasn't my experience as a
Mm.
parent because I was very willing to be part of the solution, particularly with my daughter because she was so unwell. She missed a whole term of grade one. She
Mhm.
missed a lot of schooling. Yeah, so I don't know what I can say about it other than it was certainly very much part of because I'd moved schools. My son's first primary school was, I won't even go into that, but so I moved schools going, maybe the problem's the school, right? So I moved to this school that had individual learning plans and all of that, but it wasn't really any
Mm.
culturally it was better, but the learning side of it was the same. I'm trying to come back to what you actually asked me. Well, I'm going to skip ahead again.
Go
So,
for it.
my daughter, after our homeschooling, deschooling, which I'm sure we'll talk about, my daughter's actually returned to mainstream school and aced her entrance exam. Ha ha, to everyone that judged me mercilessly for my decision. But anyway, that's the Scorpio in me going, "Tss." Um, um, she actually is in a class, so it's VCE. She's doing
Mhm.
VCE at the most amazing school that I've ever come across in my life. And there's 12 VCE students, year 11, year 12, doesn't matter, in a, they call them cottages. So in a,
That's
their
cool.
own room, they've got two little breakout rooms, bathroom, they can make tea and coffee. They've got this beautiful space. And she actually has an individual learning plan. So there is zero teacher at the front teaching everyone in the room the same thing, not
How
1 minute of
refreshing.
that. All of it is individualized. You might have someone doing maths, someone might be doing a English project, someone might be doing this and that. And it's the teacher spends, everyone knows what they're doing, spends a few minutes with everyone. He's there and available. And when we did the entrance exam for the school, I said to him, look, I'm happy to hire a tutor for maths. We didn't really focus a great deal on maths other than being able to cook, understanding if you buy something on a credit card, it's going to cost you more, like
Yes.
understanding interest, understanding money, like life maths.
Mhm.
But, um, I've never solved a problem using algebra. So, we didn't focus on that other types of maths. And I said, oh, I'm happy to get a tutor if you need. And he said to me, if you need a tutor, then I've failed as a teacher.
Oh,
So he said, um, if I try and teach your daughter a skill in maths and she doesn't get it, he said, I'll have 12, 15 different resources for teaching the same thing because all kids are different and they learn in different ways. And if she doesn't understand any of them, I just get to create a new resource
oh wow.
that'll help her and another child down the road. And I was
That's
like,
amazing.
oh, wow, wow, like tingles, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it is
So
literally individualized.
That is amazing. I personally have not come across that. So I
Me
am
either.
so happy to hear that
Yeah,
something exists right now
yeah,
that allows for that. For those that don't really know the background like I do talking to you, let's talk about your daughter for a second. So
yeah,
she started in mainstream and
yes,
then you guys went to unschooling, deschooling,
yes,
homeschooling. We'll talk about that in a second. And now
yeah.
she's back in
Now she's
mainstream.
back. Yeah,
Okay, awesome.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
first,
whole of primary school was in mainstream schooling, and just to give context, her grade six was year one of COVID. Her year seven was year two
oof,
of COVID. So during year seven, like the wheels of my process, I understand everyone was struggling, and we were in Melbourne, so like literally everyone was struggling. But I kind of saw this trajectory of where she could end up because she's very clever, but not necessarily in a way that's measured in a school
yep,
system. And she's also not particularly sporty. So that kind of like I get it A plus in maths and I run track. Like she just wasn't
yep.
in that zone. And I could see her, which is exactly what happened to me in school, getting through school thinking like not understanding that I was clever. Like it just
That
was
is
not my experience at all. And I was watching that kind of similar thing. So it was in year seven that her and I did a lot of talking about things. I was doing a lot of that research openly with her. And so, yeah, in year seven, we left that mainstream system. And
okay.
she's jumped back in August last year. They admitted her kind of three-quarters of the way through the year into year 11.
Wow. So it
Yeah,
is possible. And I
absolutely.
say that because a lot of people assume that once you leave mainstream, it's really hard to come back in it. Or if you spend too much time in unschooling or deschooling or homeschooling, that your child's not equipped to go back into mainstream. Obviously, from your particular experience, that is BS.
Well, it's my experience going into this school with a teacher that has begun his connection with her with the assumption of intelligence. She's got, with any learning, there's will and skill.
For
I
sure.
mean, no one can do anything with low will. Like, if you don't want to learn, like that's, do you know what I
True.
mean? That's a whole different thing. But he began with a foundation of partnership and, if you don't understand what I'm teaching, I'll do it in this other way. Would I have subjected her to a stock standard mainstream sit in the maths class? She wouldn't have understood the things, and so I wouldn't
Mm,
have done that to her. But I came across a lot of judgment and not people not understanding the homeschooling journey. But if you enter into any communities like this and meet other parents, we were meeting like 16-year-olds that got admitted into university degrees. We
mhm.
were meeting, you can sit an entrance exam if you don't have a VCE score to get into heaps of different university qualifications. Some you don't even need a score. Like this idea that you can't do further education if you've been homeschooled isn't correct. We were lucky that we found this school to go into VCE, and if we hadn't, then she probably just would have done a Cert 4 in something or a something, education of another kind. We were looking at, all sorts of different options.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to take us back into that moment of deschooling,
Yes.
unschooling, homeschooling, because a lot of people have heard the term unschooling, but don't necessarily understand what that is. Can you
Yes.
share your journey with us?
Yeah. So I think unschooling is mostly for the parent and
Yes.
whoever the parent has to translate the choice to in the wider family or community or concerned others.
Okay.
So the main concern from everyone else was, that my daughter would fall behind, more
Hmm.
air quotes, and that she would have no social life, that she would just basically be at home like this solo blob, not achieving anything. And it's like homeschooling opened up her social network really widely because
Mhm.
year seven was so disrupted with COVID. She hadn't really made a good group of friends, and all of a sudden she was in the homeschool choir. They put on
That's
a
awesome.
performance. She was doing all sorts of different, we were following her interests. Anyway, let me answer your question. So, unschooling is really about coming out of this idea of standardization
Hmm.
and this idea of ahead and behind. And it fitted with me very much with this idea that we're unique.
Hmm.
So if I think of, let's say maths wasn't like I'm super nerdy with numbers and I love budgeting and money management type things, but most of the maths I did in high school just made me feel stupid. So it's like I could pass, but I can't remember any of it and I don't use any of it or whatever because I didn't want to be an astronaut or I didn't want to be a
For sure.
whatever was going to use that thing. So unschooling takes away the idea that everyone, I kind of think of it like cattle kind of moving out of the paddocks and through this streamlined, conveyor belt. Unschooling just takes rid of the guide rails and it's really about your child following. Children have a natural innate curiosity to learn
They sure do.
and taking out the structures of the school and that everyone has to learn this about, you know, all these different subject areas, kind of allowing yourself to dissolve that and follow your child's interests. And like I say, it was mostly for me because I was like, had to go through my own, am I doing her a disservice? And is she like, yeah, if she does want to go back to mainstream, will she be behind? But it's just having to dissolve all of that conditioning.
That's tough.
Um, and well, it was really about educating myself on people like, oh, all those amazing stories of, so and so left school at 14 and started that amazing company, and so um, failed at school and then did this great thing. Not that there's pressure on either of my children to do great things. Like you don't have to be super amazing. I just want them to be aligned with who they are. So it was just a bit of a process.
Interesting. Yeah. So I have been on this journey for quite a while myself around
Yeah.
the unschooling. And I think you are so right. It is for me, not for my
Yeah.
kids,
Yeah.
because I catch myself, still
Yeah.
going, oh, well, we should do, why should we? Why?
Yeah.
We
And it's
shouldn't. It's the
interesting to watch.
condition.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is very worrying sometimes when I go, wow, I'm still super conditioned around certain things. And, there's the external expectation or having to explain something to someone that doesn't understand or thinks that you're crazy or,
Yeah.
that you're doing a disservice to your kids. So I really appreciate you explaining that unschooling.
Yeah.
So how did you homeschool and for how long did you homeschool?
So year seven, so so I'm just trying to think. So sort of the last part of year seven, and I'm going to talk about this um in a mainstream context because so
Sure.
year eight we didn't do well. Year eight I was still playing around with using and like an online curriculum. We did a few different things. So year eight, year nine, year 10, and then until August of what would have been her year 11 in a mainstream situation was our homeschooling experience.
Yep.
Um, and you said, how did I do it? So initially, which is very much the training wheels for a lot of us that go on this journey, I found a organization that sort of still taught curriculum-y based
Hmm.
type things, actual teachers online, that kind of thing. But I let her choose what was of interest across all of the areas. But it was still it was basically just like COVID school, and there was still disruption and this and that. Like it was still, she wasn't into it. So we didn't do that for particularly long. It was lots of conversations about what interested her. So,
Hmm.
and as a life coach, I love this, like just brain dumping, like what's interesting. So I got her to do like just list all the things that she wanted to know more about. Oh, I want to know more about space. I want to know more about um, life under the sea. I want to know more about this. Like, and then we just kind of followed those thought streams.
Hmm.
Um, and then I would find And I think because we came out of school after COVID, so many mainstream teachers left teaching over that time.
They really did.
And they'd started doing really interesting things. So they'd started running their own classes, or like, so the marketplace, more air quotes, was filled with really passionate teachers that wanted to do what they loved without all the things that they didn't love. So we found we found a science class like taught by industry experts and people that just wanted to do something great for kids, and like real life experiments and people who'd worked in the field. And she did that science class that we just paid for separate. It was just like
That's
at a
awesome.
house up the, kind of the next suburb along. And I've never seen engagement like it. Like when I went along and watched that, like I've got goosebumps thinking about it, was like, oh, this is,
Mm.
it was incredible. And there was, 20 kids, all teenagers, all there learning their things. So we kind of just found classes that she was interested in. I didn't do the teaching. The one thing with homeschooling was I'm not going to sit with you at a table and be your teacher. That's not how we're going to do it. So you can learn, you can research, and we'll find. She did a marine biology thing with an ex-NASA woman that
Wow.
started teaching marine biology online. So it was in America, but she just did the class like that. So we just found the
What was
way.
needed at the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, I love that. And I think for me in particular, and I've said this in other podcast episodes, the pressure to be the teacher and be there all the time and all of that,
No.
the longer I research, the more I talk to people, it's not true.
Yeah.
I love
And
that.
I'm not a teacher of children. Like I do a lot of teaching and personal development with
Mhm.
adults, but children are not my specialty. But there are people who, and this is kind of my philosophy in life, like you're meant to be you, I'm meant to be me. And I don't mean meant to, like we can get it wrong, but there are so many people whose passion is child education. And
Yeah,
so
for
where
sure.
there are people who come alive doing that, and then it was my job as a parent to just find the right ways, for her to
Facilitate.
learn, yeah, to facilitate.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. So, one of the things that I know that you spend a lot of time on, and there is a podcast episode that I'll chuck into the show notes for anyone that wants to sort of dive into this, is
Yes,
the parent charter.
yes. So it
Tell
is,
us.
it is my belief that if you're like parenting, like many things can be, people can think of parenting like a job, kind of like a title. But to me, parenting is a verb. Like it's very much an
Mhm.
active doing word. And if you are, an intentional parent or a conscious parent, or I don't know what the latest buzzword is, but do you know what I mean? If you're not just parenting kind of by default and not looking at any of your patterns or whatever, doing it by rote, to quote an old school term, I highly recommend that you have a parenting charter. Now, what I mean by this is similar to companies that kind of have a company charter that maps their overall purpose.
Mhm.
The parenting charter is parenting with the adult that you're co-creating, co-facilitating with the adult in mind. And
Ooh, I love
I've
that.
never heard of anyone doing this before, but I was a counselor. I did relationship counseling. I do more coaching now because it's skills based. Where are you now? Where do you want to be? Plot the
Mhm.
path in between. Um, and I've sat in so many situations with adults struggling in their relationships. And for me, because I'm a skills based coach, I can see that it's literally skills that are missing.
Mhm.
And sometimes it can be literally the skill of noticing all the stuff that hasn't been put away, or the skill of learning how to communicate if someone's upset with you, or learning like kind of adult like learning how to manage your money, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So the parenting charter is the adult, if you think about the adult in mind and then working backwards, and I do this with a lot of my clients, working backwards in an adult, in an age appropriate way. So we're
Mhm.
talking about parenting, like I said before, it's a full contact sport. We can't really do it well from the
Sure
sidelines.
is.
What do we want to install into our children? Now, it might be skill sets, it might be
Mhm.
behaviors, even things like self-reflection, like the ability if something's happened and maybe it hasn't gone well, that ability to go away, have a little bit of a think about it, think
Mm,
about how it could have gone better. Like that's a skill set. And if
really
it's not
is.
embedded in your parenting, then you end up with an adult that doesn't have it.
So true.
So there's lots of different things depending on the parents and depending on what really matters to them. But it's really is thinking about the skills of adulthood and how we can place that into the parenting charter. And usually certainly with young kids, it can pretty much all be done in play. But
Talk
it's
to me more
building those
about that.
skills.
What does that look like? What do you mean by that?
So if I use a classic example of a couple and someone's managing the kids and cooking the dinner and doing this, and then the other person in the couple goes, how can I help? Right?
Yep.
And blessed for asking, because some would just sit on the couch
Some
and do
don't.
anything. But
Yep.
that how can I help is there's sometimes a lack of skill sets in
Mhm.
there. Because in order, like if you were playing I often describe relationships like a doubles tennis team. So you're kind of covering the court of life together. So if someone's really struggling on the court playing singles tennis, someone standing on the outside going, what do you need? Is nowhere near as helpful as someone that jumps in and they already know how to
And
play
just
the
does
game,
it. Yep.
right? So sometimes it's like, so it would be the skill sets of noticing the skills, like it depends on the situation, sort of what's needed, but the skill sets of noticing the skill set of assumed responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes often with busy parents, it's so much easier for them to do everything for their children than it is for it to go slower by allowing children to help. But it creates this unconscious pattern where none of this is my job.
Interesting. Yeah, it's so
So
easy to
that
do.
it's so easy to do. But
Yep.
that's kind of slow it down. Everyone does all the work together and then everyone relaxes,
Mm-hmm.
builds in, oh, it's not time to relax yet until all these things are done. Like it kind of builds in unconscious shared responsibility, as an example.
No, I love that. That's really important. Because I guess this is an area that I definitely need to continue working on. And,
We're all
when
works in progress,
for
always.
sure.
Yeah,
And I don't claim to ever get to the end of that
me
because I
either.
don't think it's possible.
Yeah,
How interesting. So I'm a busy person as
yeah.
well. And I am so guilty of just doing things because then it's done and we can move on. And I see the difference in how I parented my older son compared to how I parent my younger son. And my older son has that sense of shared responsibility. He always does things, he gets in, and people comment about that a lot. Whereas my younger one, and there's 6 years between them,
Yes.
is very much the I'm not going to do anything until I'm asked type person. And
Yeah,
it's from how I've been parenting. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean?
And I get it.
Mm,
Like I totally understand. And the reason why, so that the other benefit of the parenting charter is for you to decide what really matters.
right.
So
How
it's
do you do
like,
that?
because, well, it can be easy to get into, like the old adage is pick your battles,
Yep.
which, I mean, I don't know if I love those words, but like pick the things that matter. So, like, as an example, there's parents that spend a lot of time trying to get their child to clean their room.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And for some people, that really matters because you're installing a sense of, um, I'll just make up an example of, that I've seen something like, well, all of these things have been purchased for you. It makes sense to look after them. You look after your
Mm-hmm.
things, that kind of thing. And that's fine if that needs to be in the parenting charter, spend the time. And then there's other parents who are like, I'm happy for you to leave your room however you want it to, as long as the door is shut and
Shut.
nothing's growing in there that
Yes.
we don't have pre-approval for. Um, but if you're in a shared space, well, you look after the shared space. It's
Mm-hmm.
your responsibility, blah, blah, blah. So if you don't decide what matters, you'll pretty much spend the whole of the teenage years going, do that, you're not doing that right, correct that, do this, do like there can be a
Oof.
lot of
It's
just,
not fun for
it's
anyone
not
when that
fun for
happens.
anyone.
Yeah.
And so for me, I wanted like self-responsibility, you get to make your choices. and you get to live with the consequences of those choices. I wanted to have that as much as I could in my
Mhm.
parenting. So for me, it was like you can keep your room however you want because that you're in that experience. So that's just a lightweight example. But
But
when
I
we
think it's important and everyone can understand. Like, I understand that. And when you say this particular example, I'm like, yeah, I couldn't care about the bedroom as long as the door's shut. And as you said, nothing's growing.
yeah,
But I really care about shared spaces and
yeah,
contributing.
yeah. So it's what I find when I start the parenting charter is that people will go, this matters, and we end up with this massive brain dump of all the things that matter. And then we pan for gold and you arrive in, do you know what I mean? These are the things that really matter. And it helps you to just make sure they're a constant pretty much through your parenting. And then there's other things that can come and go. So yeah, but like what you were saying, coming back to what you were saying, how we are, those decisions, they're
Mm,
not conscious. Like when you're busy, it's easier to just do the things, and then you can see the difference in that unconscious patterning of shared responsibility. It's good that you've noticed because I've sat in couples counseling sessions with someone who's the result of parenting that they've never noticed.
yeah,
And there can be these really distorted perceptions of how much someone contributes. Like their idea of that what they're doing is actually hugely significant compared to what's actually happening. Like there's a
happening. Yeah,
distortion because they have an underdeveloped set of skills and an underdeveloped kind of understanding of baseline kind of shared responsibility, and it
yeah,
can be really confronting then, especially if they've got a career where they feel like a success or something, like they've got areas of their life where
yes,
they're a success. It can be really confronting to kind of just witness underdeveloped parts of ourselves, whether they're communication skills or shared responsibility skills or any of those kinds of things.
so
um
important. And I think before coming across you explaining the parenting charter, I don't think it's ever really existed in my realm of knowledge.
I'd
But
never heard of it, and that's why I talk about it quite a lot, because exactly what you've described, we're doing certain things every day that have an impact on the adult and the unconscious patterning and programming and assumptions and expectations.
absolutely.
But we don't really realize because we're busy doing the do of daily busy life. Yeah.
And so with this parenting charter, you do a bit of a brain dump, then
Yeah.
distill,
Yes.
and then try and live it out and play with your kids depending on, ages and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Is it easy to just do it and then forget about it? Or how can a parent really embody that? And if this is too big a question, you can just say,
No, it's
well,
not.
invite me back.
It's well, this is potentially not my best example, but we'll just trust what my brain comes up with. But let's imagine like you're a smoker and you choose not to smoke.
Yes.
So the habit is there and you kind of face that habit.
Mm-hmm.
And so you embody it because you really decide that you want to change.
Mm-hmm.
And then you kind of face the pattern and you choose something else. So if we use that as an example, let's imagine you wanted to really embody in your family this shared responsibility. Let's imagine that was one of the things that was going to be on your parenting charter. And I'm distilling a long process into a little conversation, but let's say that
Of
was one of
course.
your things and you embody that. It's really aligned for you. Yes, I want that. I want it not only for myself, but I want it for my son and I want it for his future relationships. Like I want it for, I have been known to say to my children, like, it's my job to turn you into someone that someone else wants to live with.
Yeah.
Like, you don't want to be that person in the share house that everyone wishes would move out, or everyone else has got to say,
Yeah.
can you do this? Can you do that? Like, no one's going
Wants
to
that.
love your child the way
Yeah.
you do initially when they're out in the world. So you want to prepare them for these experiences as much as you can by normalizing them. But let's imagine you really embody that.
Mm-hmm.
You will then come up against your habit of, oh, here I am. I really just want to hurry through and get it done because I know I could do it myself in 5 minutes. And if I invite everyone in, if it's new, there might be grumbling and maybe it'll take 15 instead of 5. But you won't forget if you really land in this alignment, you just will watch that pattern. Oh, here I am again. I want to do it again. And it's just your choice. Like anything, any change we embody, we then sit in the choice of choosing the new thing, choosing not to smoke, choosing not to do it all yourself and actually inviting everyone in, choosing.
Mm.
Yeah. So when you've sat in the work and sat in the alignment and sat with the charter, no, you don't forget. You might sometimes go, I know I'm meant to be doing this differently, but I just can't be bothered right now. That could happen, but it won't be unconscious
Okay.
when it
I
really
love
matters.
that. Yeah, because I like you can tell I've got a really analytical brain by asking that question where
Yeah,
it's like, okay, so I've done the thing, how do I not forget it? But you're right, if it's that
it's
important
that
and it
important.
really is what you want to do, you
Yeah,
find a way, it becomes just a way of being. And you, of course, I will notice that I'm going back into the default of just doing,
yeah.
but you then make a choice. I think the words that you just said, which is you make a choice.
You make a choice, yeah. And if it's aligned, if we just pull a choice, oh, I can watch I've just watched so and so parenting. I think I'll try that idea. It's not aligned. You haven't tried it on.
Mm.
You don't even know if it's important to you. Then sure, you'll forget that. But this deeper patterning, I mean, you love your kids. And so the things
Absolutely.
that you realize are important, yeah, we don't forget them. We just have a process of, yeah, shifting behavior. And depending on how, like I've done a parenting charter with someone who's got three teenagers, youngest child's 15, and
Right.
you can still do it, e- and you can do it when you've just got a newborn or when your kids are little. Yes, the play-based stuff is different
Yes, of
for like a
course.
17-year-old than it is, for a 4-year-old. But um, it's that intent, it's the coaching model. Where are you now? Okay, where do you want to be? What are the steps in
Mm.
between? And like anything that you move towards, yeah, it's actions, changed behavior, that kind of stuff.
Thank you so much for taking us down that because, again, it's not widely known. I believe it changes everything and it
It
changes the
does.
conversation around education and what your child wants as well. It
Yep.
also, and I guess the question that I have for you is with this parenting charter that you have, I'm not going to ask what it is or anything like
Yep.
that, so don't
No.
worry, but how has that shaped what your kids do now and their journey when it comes to education and learning and what's important to them?
I'm just kind of thinking of a few entry points in terms of how I would answer. It was, I think it's been fundamental in terms of assisting me to make the decision to unschool and
Mm-hmm.
assisting me, well, together, we made that decision together in a very conscious, deliberate, what's the choice? What are the consequences?
Mm-hmm.
Those sorts of kind of conversations. And it just sits underneath. So I think one of the things, one of the things I care most about in this world, other than alignment, is empowerment.
Yes,
So I think feeling like a victim of circumstances or being a victim of circumstances is a horribly disempowering place to
absolutely. It's
be.
awful.
It's I kind of, when I'm talking in a light-hearted way about my work, I say I work with people from crisis to okay
Mm-hmm.
and okay to fabulous. So that crisis to okay is often coming out of disempowerment of some kind, whether it's circumstances or relationships or something like that. So part of what was really important in my parenting charter is that empowered, like you're the chooser.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some things in life we don't get to choose, like how tall we are, but there's lots of things in life we get to choose, like
For
how
sure.
kind we are or how we respond in situations where we don't know the answer, or how we ask for help, or how we, whatever, identify skills we need to learn and build them, and all those sorts of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's been a big part of the choosing to leave mainstream school, choosing to come back in. But even the conversations I'm having with my son now, so when he went through year 12, he was in a mainstream school. He was wired in such a way that like he kind of, it worked for him
Mm-hmm.
in his own way. Um, there were so many of his like friends whose parents were all highly pressured on what score, like pushing them to get a
Hmm.
particular score, pushing to go straight from school to uni. And it helped me to not have any of those conversations with him.
That's nice.
It kind of
Yeah.
the assumption is he's a clever, proactive, get out there and live it guy, which is why he's 22 and he's bought his first house and he's, out there living life. And he wanted to earn money and do all those sorts of things. So I don't subscribe to this idea, like that if you leave mainstream school, you can't get back in. And there's this other cultural thing of like, if you don't go straight to uni, you'll never go
You'll
back.
never go back,
Who
which my
made up that
parents said that
utter
to me.
rubbish? So I would say to him, you're smart, like follow what you want to do. And at
Hmm.
some point in the future, you might find the scenario I was imagining for him is that he'll have a boss that
Yep.
he feels that he could outgrow, or he'll be in a situation where he wants more than what he's getting, and that will be the stimulus for study. And he's exactly there right now.
How interesting.
But he can think out loud with me about that, and I don't have any agenda other than supporting him to choose what's right for him. So it's part of the conversation, even though he's an adult and we haven't lived together for, a few years.
Hmm.
I think it's part of the parenting, all the way through. And I've just picked one bit of that parenting charter, which is around choices.
Yeah, no, I
Did
love
I
that.
answer your
And
question?
it did. It
Good,
absolutely did.
good.
And thank you for sharing your own sort of example of that, because
Yeah,
it explained to me exactly sort of one of the ways that it
yeah.
works the whole way through. And I think, looking at, if I can ask you one last question,
Yes.
there's a lot of ground that we've covered today in
Yeah.
all different areas, from mainstream to unschooling to the parenting charter. If we have someone listening who's really struggling to know what's right for them and their child when it comes to their learning,
Mhm.
what's a piece of advice that you'd give them?
It's very difficult to say as a blanket
Mm-hmm.
when I don't have the person in front of
In front
me.
of you, of course.
But I think,
What would you ask someone who said that to you?
yeah, I would ask them about what are their concerns. So sometimes it can be like when I was going to make myself give a blanket bit of advice, the bit of advice was trust that your child is innately who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And they will have areas of interests and things that you can work with. So I think sometimes we can come at things with, here's our child, how do I get them to fit into that box that's school? So it's a little bit different to just working with the child and perhaps supporting them to manage a situation that might not be aligned. But I would be asking them about like what are your concerns? For a lot of parents, we have a current concern and then we play, um, we get on the disaster train and go like, if we haven't
Yes,
solved this now, the disaster train is, when they're 30, this. Well, I certainly did that, extrapolated to
of
absurdity,
course.
that kind of
Yeah.
thing. My brain was very good at that. Um, so yeah, asking about concerns, trying to pick out what are the concerns for you
Mm-hmm.
and what are the concerns for them, because there's a lot of doing anything that's a bit alternative. Some of it is just managing our own how we think other people will think and
Yes.
all of that sort of stuff. So to me, managing all of that was around like if they're curious, it would be exactly what you're doing, like learn. I
Mm.
think we can't make decisions unless we learn. I got a lot of comfort from listening to podcasts on the topic, speaking to like joining homeschooling, unschooling
Yes.
communities and asking people. And I found they were all so generous. I would literally had conversations with total strangers, asking them to share about their journey. I read books. I I then learned how I felt,
Mm-hmm.
aligned in whatever the choices we were doing. Everything was framed up as an experiment. Like I heard on
Love
one of
that.
your podcasts, you were saying it's not trial and error, it's test and measure. So
Mm-hmm.
be willing to try things And I find that, like most things in life, you can kind of do an edit undo on. Like
It's so true.
you can, you can try things and see what happens. It's not this, you're on this path, and if you fall off, that's it, game over kind of thing. So that taking away some of the tension around getting it right, like it's this one light switch, and if you get it wrong, that's it.
When did that happen though? Because it's definitely something that's been conditioned into a lot of people. Right, wrong, yes, no, don't get it wrong, people.
Yeah, and we certainly have that. If you've ever had any, I know your children aren't old enough yet, but if you've ever watched all the conditioning that happens later on in high school, like around this 1 year in the school you get, which doesn't
matter.
Really matter. You can wait a few years and just apply as an adult student, or you can do something else for a year and transfer over, or you can take a gap year, or like there's all sorts of things. Or you've got to choose the right course. Or I find mainstream education later on in high school does a lot of that. Right, wrong, and wrong is like terrible consequences. And right is all the shiny things. So it's
that kind of thing.
Yeah. So so just kind of life is a living, breathing adventure, and we can try things.
Oh, so true. And my biggest takeaway from what you've said so far is that it is an experiment, and that to really get clear on what is my concern and what is my child's concern, because I know I'm guilty of that too. I tend to mix it all up and think it's the one, when in actual fact, if I was to spend a few minutes to separate that.
Yeah, and there's a third compartment.
Yeah.
So there's what's mine, what's my child, and what am I imagining will be projected on me from other people.
Yes.
And for that third compartment, the more aligned you are, the easier it is to just stand in your own conviction. And doesn't mean you can convince everyone. You're right, everyone's allowed to think whatever they think, but you don't get thrown off your own center. Whereas if you don't I've made my decision based on this research, this information, it's an experiment. Like if you don't feel aligned in that and someone comes along and makes a judgment, we tend to get a lot more thrown off center. So I just wanted to name there are the 3 compartments, because often with anything that leaves the mainstream, there will be that third area where you're managing external expectation or disappointment or judgment, or
you're not wrong.
add the things. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. I've learned so much from this, so I'm sure that the listeners will absolutely have a lot to consider. And we will be dropping all of your information in the show notes. So if they have, further questions and that sort of thing, they can get in contact with you. Thank you. Oh,
that's my pleasure. That's my pleasure. This is something I care about a lot. So I really appreciate the time.
Amazing.
Until next time, keep thinking bigger about what's possible. I'm Liz Volpe. See you on the next episode of Generation Inspired. Follow the podcast so you don't miss what's coming next.